Hello everyone, Dr. Christine Smith back with a live that I think is incredibly important today, and this is going to be about toxins and toxic exposure. And I have a wonderful guest coming to join me, commonly known as Non-Toxic Dad, but his name is Warren Phillips, and he had a channel and brand Non-Toxic Dad for a while to teach families at home how to avoid toxins and what to consider in the environment and how we can better take care of ourselves and how this can really be a huge burden on our body. So hello, Warren. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, it's awesome. Super excited to talk to you. When I met you, I was like, this girl's a genius. Like, she knows her science and her stuff. So these are the kind of conversations I love to have, because you really understand at the cellular level, at the hormonal level, the upstream level, of how these toxins are leading to cancer, infertility, and numerous other causational problems. And that's what you do. You get to the root cause of the problem, remove that interference, chiropractic, philosophy that you were raised on, and the body can heal and do amazing things. So we get to share these amazing, hopefully some of the easiest things you can do to remove some of these toxins and get some wins in your life. Because if you remove some of these toxins, guys, holy cow, the difference that can happen in your life can be absolutely immediate and long-term, of course.
I like to think of it like removing gravel from a grandfather clock. Like, it just works better, and none of the systems will work if you have all of these things floating around, just damaging pieces every single moment of every single day, which is really what toxins do. And I know you got very passionate into this field after spending a lot of time in research, and then also having 3 daughters of your own and just trying to detoxify your family and your life, and then running into all the other research about this stuff. I'm so curious, just a little bit more about your story, whatever you're willing to share, and just how you got so passionate about this.
Yeah, it actually goes, I am a busy guy. I got a family and 3 daughters, and I'm 48, and I have a 2-year-old on December 1st. I'm a December baby as well. She's my little twinsy, so I'm super blessed to have my 3rd and final baby, unless God's got a different plan for me. But 48, still young, healthy, wearing my continuous blood glucose monitor right now because of great physicians like you out there. So we watch what we eat, and we're held accountable. So it actually goes way back, right? I mean, I've always been passionate about the environment and cleaning up the environment, because I was raised in the 90s, reduce, recycle, reuse. So I went in and got my master's degree at the University of Montana, where I learned how to clean up the environment. That's where I did my master's work on the binding of heavy metals in natural environments and sulfides, using plants, you name it, clays, all these things in the natural environments, zeolites, to clean up federal use defense sites, abandoned mines from back in the day. I got to remember to look at the green dots so that I'm looking at the camera here. So cleaning up abandoned mines, but in that process, I was exposed to a lot of toxins, polyaromatic hydrocarbons, petroleum byproducts, benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, xylene, of course, all those things, but a lot of heavy metals, lead, mercury, arsenic. And so in that progression, I was in that field as an environmental consultant, postgraduate, started cleaning up all this stuff, all these messages still coming through. And so it's live, this is what these are. Babies crying in the background, I don't know if you can hear that, Aspen. So long story short, I started developing these symptoms from cleaning. I cleaned up mercury cleanups. I did mercuric oxide cleanup. They used to coat this stuff on grains in the 80s. And mercuric oxide is this red dust, kind of like they used to use it in tattoos. Why would you think they would coat grains in mercuric oxide before they planted the grain?
To stress it in some way for the purpose of growth?
Yeah, that's what they do it for in vaccines. But with grains, the same thing is why they put it inside of multiple stick vaccines. They put an eye care solution. It kills everything and makes it sterile. So fungus doesn't get it. If a rat eats it, it dies. If a bird eats it, it dies. It's like ultimate pesticide, herbicide, and fungicide, right? So, but it created great, just like anything else connected to outcomes. It created more grain. So did one of those cleanups too, covered in this red dust, right? If I would have known, that's why I'm so passionate about it. Fast forwarding, I got sick, had a big following at my church at the time. I had this little Bible study, had like 40 kids showing up. I would feed them and, just hang out with them. A lot of them, came from the jail essentially, or the delinquent homes and all this stuff. So this is my little give back ministry that I was doing but I got so sick, the sound of a doorbell ringing, the hangers clanking, cell phones ringing. I think I already said that, but doorbells ringing, all those little sound sensitivity happened. Muscle twitching, eye twitching, like all these weird symptoms, massive anxiety. So then I go to the therapist. I went to the chiropractor, right? All these things trying to get to it. And I had this amazing normal life. And then it just degraded. Actually, it really got bad after a whiplash accident too, which was another insult, a physical trauma, emotional trauma. I was pissed off at my church at the time because they did some really odd things that just was a little bit too much for me, right? And that pastor wound up dying. So there's just emotional trauma, physical trauma, and then obviously the chemical traumas. And so I was so sick, I had to quit my job, sell my home, move into my parents' basement. It was moldy, got sicker, got fatter, got unhealthier, chemically sensitive, couldn't go to church, couldn't go have fun, couldn't plant flowers, couldn't go hunting, couldn't go on hiking. Like, life's over. Do I take my life? This sucks. I'm 25. You know, the whole thing that a lot of people who come maybe listening to this. But I had this faith, this belief in my heart that I can't off myself. Like, there's got to be good that comes of this, because I was a good dude. I had a good heart. Like why is this happening to me? Then, as you know, Dr. Dan inspired me, said, this is, you're sick. And then as soon as that happened, I was on board, right? And then I realized that your couch, your bed, your home, the fragrances, the amalgam fillings, all this stuff was poisoning our population at a much faster rate than I was, because I was wearing personal protective equipment. I was wearing the proper mask most of the time, and I still got sick, right? Do I have a genetic predisposition? Did that whiplash trigger that gene? Likely, I would say, right? But in general, our population, the humans watching this right now in your homes, are toxins that are just as toxic as hazardous waste that I was cleaning up on a daily basis, right? When you fill up your gas tank, if you don't walk away, you're almost hitting the permissible exposure limit of benzene. If you fill up a couple times a day, you're close to what the government allows. You don't exceed it. Fill up 3 times, you're over it. Even with some of the regulations with the soil, the vapor extraction units that they now employ, especially inside the gas tanks. But California does a good job, and some other states, they actually put them on the nozzle. So that to be said, that's why I'm passionate about it, because I got sick with the known toxins, and these unknown toxins that are sitting in people's homes are causing others to be miserable and live far below the life that they deserve and want, the way they want to look, the way they want to feel, the value they want to give. Because most people watching this and around the world actually are good people. They want to be healthy. They want to be kind. They want to be a better human. Does these stressors release our worst self? And do we feel like crap after that? We for sure do. And then we're living in a guilt shame cycle on top of that. So toxins can lead into all these emotional problems and us not growing personally. And sometimes we need to grow personally to be able to remove the chemical toxins in their life. And I know that you address all 3 in your practice. So that's my story. I hope that helps and inspires you that you're not alone, that I've been through this stuff and it's hard work. And I hope to, through our conversation today, to give you some simple switches and answers that can give you some relief.
Thank you. Well, thank you first off for working to clean up the environment and doing it in a natural way and making people aware of this stuff, because I know, guys, talking about it is scary, but it's happening whether we don't talk about it or not. And, I saw just from when you were talking, a couple people, this is happening to me too. I'm only 33. What is happening to me?
It's happening younger and younger. I'm getting chills just thinking about
people are getting sicker and sicker. It's like I see it on labs, right? And it's just not the same as it was 10 years ago. Or especially not in our grandparents' day. That's totally different too. And I was actually just talking to Dr. Tom O'Brien the other day, who's a gut expert, and he was saying that he had lead in his bones from his childhood that didn't get released until much later in his life. And then he was talking about how this can happen to women as they start to, or men as they start to go through osteoporosis, and we have bone loss. All of a sudden we release all these toxins. Same thing with people losing weight. If I am working with someone and they're having, a weight loss goal and they're losing a good amount of weight, I use binders. We have to capture those chemicals as they come out of the secure storage system that your body puts them into. And I think what you described of kind of the overall burden from emotional and physical, like an injury, and then chemical, that's where we all get hit. And what's happening in our society, which is exactly what you're talking about, is like that chemical burden is so much higher than it used to be that we don't have very much room for mental or physical stress that comes along with that. And that's how you can be, you know, fine, because technically your body's in a bit of a maladaptive state handling all this stuff. And then you have like one tiny mold exposure and your whole entire system crashes. And I've been through those myself. I've been through my system crashing, and it's scary. It makes your brain not work right and your emotions not work right, and you're not resilient anymore. And then you go through a whole bunch of shame because you're not resilient. And I'm a practitioner, like I know about this stuff, and it was still confusing. And I think about the lay people that generally don't know this, and this is why I wanted to have you on and why I wanted to do this. So just thank you, because I think it's really important, and there's so many different sources of it, and that's the most confusing part. And for anyone listening, we're going to be going over a lot of stuff that you use in your everyday life that is technically toxic, and then we're going to talk about ways that you can avoid it and have some alternatives. So we want this to be an empowering talk for you, even though we're going to be talking about some stuff that makes you feel like that's everything I use, like what do I do? And unfortunately, it's just the state that our world is in, is we just live in a toxic environment. But these are the things that you have control over, because you can control what you put on your body, what you put in your mouth, and to a certain extent what's in like your home environment. But ultimately we only have so much control, which is why what you put on your body and what you put in your mouth is so important. So let's talk about that a little bit, especially the part of what we're putting in our mouth, because I think food, and the fact that our food industry is, for lack of a better term, a little disrupted chemically and by the business aspect of it, because there's a lot of things that we do to our food in order to make it easier for farmers or make the yield better. And I get that. But if we're poisoning ourselves at the same time, it's not going to work. So what are some of the things that you consider the most when you are like shopping at the grocery store and looking for foods and stuff that you're trying to avoid and go for instead?
Well, I'm going to surprise you, and I'll get to the exact question in a second, but your skin eats, right? So I'm going to say the most important thing is your underwear, right? Because I think on a day-to-day basis, you're eating your underwear. You're eating whatever is on your skin. It's your biggest organ, right? So you're absorbing through sweat, heat, and we'll get into some of the details of this later, but you're sucking all those chemicals, these hormone disrupting chemicals that are likely higher than what's in food and even in our water, right? And so you have phthalates, these hormone disruptors, these endocrine disruptors, these hormone mimics, and you disrupt your hormones, everything starts falling apart. So I'm going to say, first of all, you're eating your underwear. You're eating whatever you're putting on your skin. So that's the first food. If you can't eat it, don't put it on your skin. That's easy. So that, if you can eat your underwear, it's kind of like Johnny Underpants or Captain Underpants or whatever. If you can eat what you put on your skin, you're in a good move. That's why there's this farm movement, this restorative, regenerative farm movement, where we're using tallow and olive oils and organic jojoba oil. I probably said that wrong. And all of these things, because you can literally eat these things and put them on your skin. So they're not only healthy for your skin, they're healthy for your body. They're supplying good, healthy fats in the right ratios, that they're not too heavy in omega-6 or too heavy in omega-3. And you're able to put these and they absorb in. It's called transdermal, right? Some absorb better than others. So that's the first food, what you put on your body, because your skin is your mouth. Food-wise, if you're a meat eater, you got to clean that stuff up, right? It's called in science, basic science, the law of biological concentration. When a cow eats something, or XYZ other animal, they're going to concentrate those chemicals. Where did you say it in the beginning? In the fats. They lock them safely in the fat cells. And then we have this beautiful ribeye at Steak of America, wherever we're eating it, and it's loaded with lots of glyphosate and pesticides and antibiotics and all this other stuff. Downer cows are what you get at McDonald's. Downer cows are cows that sat there and were dairy cows for years and years till they get so sick with so many hormones, with so many chemicals, they fall over, and they're downer cows. Now they're done for, and they get sent to McDonald's to turn into food that you eat, and it's loaded with all those same chemicals. So when it comes to the meats that you eat, because of biological concentration, and that's the same thing, that's why you don't eat big fish, right? So we're getting back to the pregnancy thing that we can all relate to, but we're not talking about the meat. So that's why if you are a meat eater, grass-fed, grass-finished, make sure that that meat is clean. And when that happens, it's way, way better for the environment, number one. Number two, you're supplying the fat ratios that are perfect for your cells, arachidonic acid, the vitamins. It becomes a superfood, right? And yeah, if you're plant-based, and I know a lot of folks are, you know, you have to eat clean because that's going to biologically concentrate inside of you. And you have to eat a lot more of this stuff to get the protein and nutrients because you're not a cow, right? You don't have the multiple stomachs to break this stuff down and to, you know, extract all that out. So you got to eat differently. You got to do things differently. And I respect that, right? And it can be healthy for some folks. I'm not pushing either way. But so if you're eating a plant-based diet, make sure that what you're eating is clean and safe and not full of heavy metals, because plants, if it's not, even if it's organic, some plants and herbs in particular will suck the heavy metals out of the ground. We use those in abandoned mine cleanups. They would plant certain types of plants and trees that are great heavy metal chelators. They would pull the metals out of the ground to clean the soil, and then they'd harvest that stuff and then take it and put it in a class 3 landfill where it couldn't leach back into the environment. So that's when I talk about foods, those are the big things, right? Making sure it's clean so it's not biologically concentrating in you. Or if you're eating meat that has biological toxins, chemical toxins that are getting concentrated, especially in the fats, and then you're eating them and it's causing all kinds of damage.
I could not agree with you more. And I think everything that you're pointing out about it's, you know, it's not just the cow that you're eating, it's also what the cow is eating. And so you have to, and especially like you think about these animals and like the way that they're taken care of. If you're eating some animal that has been on a bunch of hormones and a bunch of antibiotics and fed food that it's not supposed to eat and has a completely messed up microbiome, you're now eating all of those messed up hormones and that messed up chemistry, and it's coming into your body. And I think
and it's slaughtered improperly, right? If it's not done in a caring, loving, kind way, those hormones and stuff are horrible for your body, right?
You're now eating their stress hormones from their crazy, stressful death. Yep. The care of the animals is huge. And, you know, and that's one of the other larger scale benefits that, like, we're talking kind of medium here and more in like personal life. But when you start making these choices and you start purchasing things, even if they're like a couple dollars more because they're not poison, you start changing the environment and you start changing the upward chain of our whole system that everyone's complaining about. But the only way that we can change it is by changing what we're eating and how we're purchasing with our dollar and all of that. And when it comes back to the plants and what they're absorbing, it's like you can have something that's marked organic, but technically with the weird things that we're doing to our soil, it's like the soil's not always perfectly organic and you still have stuff floating through the air. And
it doesn't have the microbiology to extract the minerals, so the plants don't even have the minerals that your body needs to detoxify. So taking care of our land, and that's why I'm so excited. Here's the excuse that we're going to hear. How do I say this? You know, our dollars don't matter. It doesn't matter because it's such a crappy world. The system is so broken. Well, I've been around in this for a long time, right? I'm 48 years old. I got sick when I was 25, right? We had to fight to find grass-fed. You had to fight to find raw milk. You had to fight and, you know, get stuff sent from California, because they're a little more progressive, to get gluten-free crackers. Like, this stuff did not exist. Now, there's grass-fed, grass-finished farmers everywhere. So you don't think that your dollars matter? They matter. There's been a massive shift, right? And also how you know, and this is good and bad, is big food is buying out these grassroots organic companies. And a lot of them have in the contracts, you can't change the formulas, stuff like that. So it's becoming mainstream. So in my opinion, we're winning the day. The wellness movement is growing, you know, and because of things that happened, we fast forwarded this stuff. So it's even more important now to vote with our dollars. I disagree with you, and I honor that, if you think that our dollars don't matter, because it does. When it comes down to most things that I see, I think it's dollars. I think it's money at the core of it. Yeah, is there this hidden agenda? I don't go down that road. I know for a fact it comes down to money. That is business 101. They care about making money. They don't really believe, because they're not you or I. that this stuff is affecting them, right? They're in a different model. They believe a different way. Their perspective, their perspective, the glasses they're looking through are way different than you or I. Maybe they didn't suffer. Maybe they're stuck in the medical model, and not understanding that there's this alternative model that's in harmony with nature. There's no judgment there. They just don't know. Like, you can't get mad at someone for being who they are, right? That's just who they are. It's a great lesson for toxicity, by the way. If you keep getting mad at the same person for being the same thing over and over again, and they're still in your life, either accept them for who they are and love them and be kind, right? Or get rid of them. It's toxic, but they can keep complaining about someone being who they are is causing stress hormones and toxicity in your life that you don't need. That's a major emotional stress. One of the greatest learning is when I realized the science and psychology about why people make decisions and why they are who they are. They just are, right? There's no changing them. There's all these belief structures, and it's to protect their brain, to let them to be able to survive. So they're just surviving, right? Just like we all are, and we all have perspectives. So the quicker you can accept people and really come out and look at the trees, they're just being who they are. Every single time they screw me, every single time they say that mean thing that tears me down, either you can ignore it or you can walk away from it. So that's like a little side emotional toxicity trick that really helped free me up, to turn off the phone, to not answer the text, to save my energy for the things that do matter, like creating a great living so that I can afford more cool stuff in my home, right? Because I'm now taking that energy into adding value versus into rabbit holes that don't add value. So there's lots of different ways to slowly and incrementally make these decisions, right, in our life. So I'm getting off on emotional toxicity, but it's a big one, guys.
I'm really glad that you brought it up, because I talk about this all the time, and it's like, it's a hard concept for me to get across to people sometimes, but there's a reason that I have the niche that I do, and it's because I teach people to reevaluate what they consider an injury. We can have a chemical injury, which is what we started talking about. You can have an emotional injury, which is what you were just talking about. And then you can have a physical injury, like the whiplash that you were talking about. And all of these things add up, and they all create the same stress inflammatory pathway, which is our body responding correctly, right? Our body is trying to take care of us. That's our immune system working properly. However, all disease basically comes from like improper inflammation, and all of these different things contribute. So you can remove all the toxins from someone's home, but I will say I have removed toxins from people and put them on all the supplement protocols, and if I don't get their thinking right so that they're not having toxic thinking, it really doesn't last, and they will make themselves sick with the way that they think. So I think toxic thinking is just as important as everything in our environment, and that is definitely the thing that's under your control. It just takes practice and acknowledging that you are not your thoughts. And when it comes back to what you're talking about with, you know, kind of our big corporations and everyone running the world, it's a business. Like, it's just money. So if you want to make the world better, direct them in the way that you want them to spend the money. And I think you're exactly right. Like, it's happening, right? It's way easier to find grass-fed meat. It's way easier to find things without chemicals. So just stop buying stuff with chemicals. And think about the fact that when you walk into somewhere like a 7-Eleven, there is no food in that store, period. Like, none of that is actual food. It's all processed stuff. So then you start realizing, like maybe I should work at going to a local farmer or a local grocery store. And I know one of the arguments around this is that there are, you know, food deserts, especially in rural areas where it's like the only convenience store you have near you is a 7-Eleven. But then there's really cool things like Thrive Market, which is basically an online grocery store that is all natural and non-toxic. And if you guys want, I'll put a link for that in my bio. But it's just an opportunity to be able to access this stuff, even if you're in an area where it's tough to do, or if you are in a rural area, there are probably local farmers around you. Go talk to them. You can do a cow share with, you know, people around you, and, you know, and people make arguments about plant-based versus meat-based and the environment and all this, but you can use one cow to feed like 4 families. So when we start talking about that, that's a pretty big concept, especially if it's a healthy cow. So man, we could talk about this stuff for hours. I love
it. It comes down to mindset, you know, Dr. Christine. It's, you know, there's another psychological pathway. It's, you know, and I'll challenge everybody. And that's why we're here today. We're here to be challenged, and we're here to grow in a loving, kind, safe environment, because we're good people. Like we're all good people here. But I use this with my children, and these are things that I've used to make myself better, to make the people around me better, and just add value. So here it is. When someone says, I can't afford a cow, right? Or there's no cow around me. Have they really even tried? Because usually it's an excuse for failure, right? We're making excuses because we aren't energized enough to do the work. And I understand that. Life is tough. You just can't add another thing, right? But the thing that I've learned is to stop complaining, using that energy to create excuses, take that same energy ball of excuses, complaining, and create methods for success in my life. So when I go somewhere, because I've trained myself so well, I go into a rural area, you know, camping on a lake. There's nothing here but a local junk grocery store that doesn't have anything. I'm just going to sacrifice and eat crap. Instead, I'm like, this is a great opportunity. Where's the 2 farmers markets? Where's all the local farmers? Talking to people, having fun, you know, a cup of coffee with someone at the farmers market. Hey, who has a good farm here? And then you go visit the farm, and then it's a regenerative farm. And then the kids, we're buying meat off of them at a discount, right? And then we're eating grass-fed, grass-finished, regenerative, high mineral dense tomatoes and everything else. And we enjoy it. And then we're having this wonderful feast of fresh food, where we could have said, let's just give up. We're going to eat pizza and frozen pizza for this vacation. But instead, we found a solution, right? Instead of all these excuses. So that's just called self-responsibility. And that's hard for almost all of us, right? Especially our children.
Well,
We're trying to teach them self-responsibility. But when you start winning with self-responsibility, and you see you're getting wins because you're taking control, because if someone's mistreating you, it could have been, the root cause could have been you. You can only control you. So anyway, I'm getting off on that because I'm in the middle of raising my one daughter, teaching her self-responsibility, always blaming, right? So that doesn't work. You're blaming the government. You're blaming this. You're blaming that, right? And it's called the scapegoat, right? This is what they used to do in religious times, right? Back in the day, they would take a scapegoat, some of these different religions, and they would say, these are all my sins, these are all my problems, and they'd throw stones at the goat and not change their behavior, right? So I taught my girl, that little girl with the thing, I'm like, this stuffed animal, you're blaming everything on this stuffed animal. Is that going to help you change, right? And the answer is no. It's not the stuffed animal's fault. It's inert. It has no bearing on your life, but you're blaming everything on an outside thing instead of realizing it's in you that the problem lies. The reason your sister's not treating you well is because you haven't treated her well for several months, and she's finally breaking down. So you're getting what you created, right? You're in control. What can you do? But. So you get the button and book, you know, but so I don't know why we're going in this direction, but I feel like if we don't get those wins from self-responsibility, if we don't get those wins from the changes that we're going to share here in the last 15, 20 minutes, then that's self-responsibility. That's creating, I don't have time to do this. What do you have time to do? Dr. Tom O'Brien taught me this one. If you can do one change a month, and if you're really strong, you can do one change a week, right? So what's one change you could do right now? Get rid of everything in your home. Well, let's just start with this. Get rid of all the fragrances in your home, the Febrezes, the plugins, Downy sheets, you know, all your detergents. Detox your washer with vinegar and water and baking soda, and get rid of all those scents, and get rid of that neurotoxin. Get rid of that, you know, nausea trigger, headache trigger. You have chronic headaches, right? Your animals aren't healthy. Your birds aren't tweeting in your house. I've seen that happen before. When you remove an air freshener, the birds that you have in your house, a parrot or a parakeet, start singing again because of the neurotoxins. That's one you could do, and you could do that this week. That will give you a win. Hey, I slept better. Wait a minute. You know, my brain fog went away. Wait a minute. I didn't get a migraine this week, right?
I'm sorry,
Okay.
go ahead.
No, I'm done. I was
going to say, it gives a whole other viewpoint on canary in the coal mine, right?
Yeah.
We used to use those to discover when there was toxins present so everyone could get out before they died, because the bird would die first. So if we can start to understand these things in our environment, this is how we take the control back, because I think our society's also been a little brainwashed to be victims. And so we're encouraging you guys to not think that way anymore and realize how much power you actually do have. And when he's talking about all the things in our environment, like we'll start a little bit of a list, and then maybe you can also talk about like things that you like to shift and do in your life. Because I saw a question earlier that was like, what's a healthy way to detox? That is a question that I could spend 5 hours answering, and it's different for every single person. So it really depends on what's going on in your body, and you need to work with a practitioner if you're doing an active detox.
Yeah.
But the simplest way to do a passive detox is just stop ingesting all the toxins. And so, you can do things like getting an air filter or getting a water filter. And, if you have questions on those, reach out. I have ones that I like. But when it comes to the environment, anything that's scented, unless it's like essential oils, is pretty much a toxin. So just like, don't use the plugins, don't use the air fresheners in your car. Like, I know they smell good. I know dryer sheets smell good, but also, like, we've all become weirdly addicted to chemicals, so we think they smell good. And when you start getting off of them, then when you smell them, they just smell like chemistry. And you realize that you had become adapted to this thing that was really destroyed.
Here's the money again, right? They spend millions, if not tens of millions of dollars developing, because this fragrance gets hidden, right? And they pass through, they're not really regulated. They test them in groups to see if it creates a chemical dopamine reaction like eating sugar or anything else that keeps you addicted. So food additives the same way. You can't put the Pringle down. So this is all science to keep you addicted, right? So you don't want to be controlled by anyone or anything, do you? Right? But you are. These fragrances are controlling your life. And you got to get rid of them because they're tricking you into thinking that they're healthy, and they're supplying for most people, an addictive dopamine serotonin spike because they're powerful chemicals. They're drugs essentially, right? They're synthetic chemicals.
And we're giving them to our kids. Like, I remember seeing a post, and I think it was like a kid drinking a Sunny D, a bag of like a snack bag of Skittles, and a mac and cheese was like 100 chemicals. And all of a sudden we're wondering like why ADD has gone up. And then there's been a bunch of studies where they take the kids off of all the additives, and all of a sudden their ADD goes away. And
yep, and they actually put fragrances in food to keep you addicted. They're able to slip those in, so some foods actually have fragrances in them, or in the bag, or in the packaging. I mean, it's not. I mean, I don't think they're purposely trying to kill us. Like, I don't want to use that word, purposely trying to take out our families. But it's currently how it's really deep marketing, right? It's addiction. If they can get the reoccurring order from you, right, to get it again and again and again, keep filling up the blade, plug in, you buy the canister and then you buy the refill. Like, that's where the residual money comes in, and that's what makes the companies worth a lot more, because look, you have all this people, they're rebuying over and over again. It's a very simple model, and we're stuck in it. So we have to get out of the model, and it takes a detox. You detox from fragrance. Your brain, you might be sad for a little bit because your brain's used to that stimulation.
You're going through
just like, you're working with your medical doctor to slowly come off of a psychotropic drug, right? So you have to wean yourself off of this stuff, and then you realize, and you wake up, and your senses wake up, and you're happier and you're healthier. Let's get into some more of that stuff, right? When we share another one, let's go back.
I was going to say, I would love if you would dive into what you were thinking about as you detoxified your life, and just things that you consider or alternatives that you enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I want to, before I go there, I want to go back to underwear, because there are some simple things that I did, like cracking your window and things like that. But let's go back to underwear, especially for those that are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on infertility, right? I just pulled the study that was done in 1992 by the National Institute of Health. I'm going to try to pull it up here on my computer. I might be able to do that, but it was hard to find. But it was done in 1992 by the government, and the whole point of it was to see if these fabrics could affect the number of people in the world, right? And what they found with this polyester sling is that it was 100% safe, effective, and contraception for men. So essentially male birth control, right? And it worked 100% of the time, right? So we're spending all this money on these issues. And if you talk to infertility folks, which I have at these seminars, it's a lot of the time it's the male is the issue. And the male is wearing his polyester tighty whities, which is shown in this study. I mean, it's a sling, but it's polyester. It's on your boys, right? And it's causing infertility. It's effective and safe male birth control. And right around the 90s, we switched out from the cotton craze in underwear into polyester underwear. It started in the 90s. That's when these tight underwear, because the cotton gets kind of saggy, and I was wearing, I'm like, these are great, you know, holding me tight. You know, I can do more. This is great. But, and so here's the reason it works. One, it's easy. Most people know this, is that polyester is essentially plastic. Plastic doesn't breathe, traps the heat, heats up your friends, destroys all your, your swim team. And in that process, that alone causes an issue. But also what they found is this chemical rubbing, this electrostatic process creates an electrostatic field that essentially renders and lowers your sperm count and affects your hormones. I'm going to read it to you, and I want you to explain it to him because this is hormone science that I'm not qualified. So in this one, ladies, you're not off the hook because they did this on female dogs. They didn't do it on in male dogs, and they put polyester underwear on female dogs. Same issue. No matter if they were mated naturally or intravenous, all the dogs did not get pregnant. Take the underwear off, dogs get pregnant again. Pretty strong science. But here's what they said. They said electrostatic potentials were detected on the skin of all dogs dressed in polyester-containing textiles. The low serum progesterone and non-conception of the 8 dogs could point to an ovulation and failure of luteinization?
Oh, so basically your ability to ovulate.
Yep, and then it also says electrostatic potential were measured. The diminished serum progesterone in the oestrus and of the oestrus cycle, and did not conceive on mating or insemination. So why? What hormones is it affecting?
Yeah, so
and it was the electrostatic charge.
Yeah, basically what that article is just saying is it affects your progesterone, which is like your upstream hormone building block. It comes from cholesterol. So also then we think about all these people on like
low
cholesterol lowering medications. My question instead is, why is your cholesterol high? We should probably figure that out before we try to lower it because it's a signal in your body. So progesterone is the downstream hormone from cholesterol. But then from this, you make your estrogens, you make your male sex hormones, your androstenedione. You also make aldosterone, which has to do with blood pressure. It can be transformed into your cortisol pathway. So it's like, it's this major upstream building block that gets lowered. And then all of a sudden you don't have the materials to build any of your other hormones that manage your immune system, that manage your blood pressure, that manage your sex hormones, that manage your cellular growth, that manage your fertility, that also manage things like your brain function and memory, because estrogen is actually really important for that, which is why after menopause and things like that, you have some brain effects. And so then you also start to think about all of these women who are having really bad postmenopausal issues and all of their hormones are being affected. Progesterone is also one of your happy hormones. And then we think about all these young women with really bad infertility issues, and it basically, yeah, so it affects everything, like everything downstream. And this is just from an item of clothing that you're wearing. And then we think about, like, I mean, you know, I'm guilty of it sometimes. I wear leggings and I really like them because they're handy, but it is good to take breaks, and really wearing like cotton and linen are some of the more higher frequency, healthier clothings that you can wear, because like you can wear all this stuff, like you're not going to die from it, but it just slowly builds up over time. And then we wonder why everyone has dementia these days. And so this is what we're talking about, is like, how can you start to take breaks or rotate things or have detox practices in your life, like exercising and making sure that you sweat is one of the most important things.
Easy detox technique, right? If you're healthy enough to exercise, because I wasn't, but if you're healthy enough.
And if you can't, maybe taking a hot bath. And if you have like such low blood pressure that you can't do like a hot Epsom salt bath, or you're worried about it disrupting something else, doing like the ionic foot spa detox baths. If you're able to handle it, doing things like infrared sauna. And, you know, someone else asked earlier, like, how often do we take binders? Well, it depends on the binder, and it depends on you and your health status. So as always, please speak with your practitioner. But essentially, you know, binders like charcoal or fulvic acid or humic acid or zeolite, like those are all things that can help. And you can just do these sometimes in your life, especially if after you like eat a bad meal, or you do cheat, or you drink alcohol, things like that. Because also these detox pathways are dependent on your genetics, and different people have different genetics. Myself, I don't have great detox genetics, and it doesn't mean that I am doomed to die. It just means that I have to be more careful with my environment, and I have to support my body more with vitamins and minerals. And sometimes I have to do that with supplements, because as we were talking about earlier, our agriculture has changed and our food just doesn't have the same nutrients in it as it used to, which is why buying organic or buying from someone local and also buying that healthy meat product is so important. So that's just a quick tangent off of what you're talking about, but it's so important.
And going back to voting with your dollars, there was no clean clothing companies and tight fitting Lululemon like companies. Now there's like 5 or 6, and I know a friend of mine that's looking to build their own healthy, sustainable, you know, cotton-based clothing and hemp-based and organic. So this movement is happening. So there is like, 'cause my daughter loves Athleta or something like that, and there's an Athleta store down here in Salt Lake, and she was all into Athleta. And quite honestly, I didn't like it. And I'm like, I'm saying, you're wearing spun petroleum again, girl. Like, that's petrochemicals on your skin. I don't care, daddy. So I'm not like, you know, I'm like, but not everyone's going to be the non-toxic dad like me, right? So I do protect my children really well. And I wanted her to learn for herself. So someone sent us some books, because, you know, I'm online, and she started reading through like the bad fats and oils and clothing. And now she's open to and wants to switch. So she probably warmed for a couple years, but now, Mom, I gave her a list, and I found this person online. I found their blog, and they had 6, I don't know where it was at, but I sent her the article. It had 6 different companies that had athletic wear that was non-toxic, right? And I'm like, there we go. That didn't exist. We had Pact, you know, that was about it, like 8, 9 years ago. And now there's several companies that are doing this, and they're doing ethical e-commerce is what I call it. They're doing ethical things. And I think the whole world is more moving towards ethical, because so many things were unethical. And now people have woken up quite a bit about the unethical things that we allow into our lives, because we just trust it to be okay. We trust McDonald's to be okay. We trust the company that's using petroleum, which is cheap, and polyethylene and polyester. This stuff is cheap and inexpensive. Oh, it's a renewable resource, but how much did it cost to remove it, right? Did you know that polyester can be melted and returned into polyester? It's just like a big plastic ball, right? And so this stuff's nasty. Anyway, we are voting with our dollars. I keep going back to that. It does matter. You do matter, and your health matters. And I'm going, you know, I hope at the end of my journey in this life, I'm living on the farm, wearing organic, nothing colored. You know, that's my goal. I'm not all the way there. Do I have some plasticware in my closet? Yes, a little bit, not a lot. And I don't wear it often, or if at all anymore, because of getting educated through podcasts / lives like this. It's just, when I found this polyester essentially as a super effective way of male contraceptive, male birth control, I really rethought the level of the non-toxic dad deep dive into this stuff and what I'm removing from my life. It woke me up, and I didn't know that, right? Someone said dispose it. We need to throw it away, or maybe go recycle it and turn it into something useful in plastic. I don't know. So go ahead.
Well, and people were, you know, asking about like, how do we dispose of this safely? Like, that's a whole other conversation. But I think recycling is a decently good method for now.
Yeah,
but
I mean, you can give it away too, and it's really sad, like you give away these clothes, but they're, you know, I mean, I've gone to Africa, right? And the kids that were naked were healthy, and they were just and burlap sacks or naked, right? Or just little coverings. They were way healthier than the kids that were getting the free clothes. So I don't even know if it's good. I mean, but poverty is a whole different deal, right? So I mean, I'm not an expert in that. I'm not an expert in that demographic and what to do there. I know that I'm doing what I can and what I'm called to do, and my mission as non-toxic dad, you know, because it's a lot of work to do this. It's a lot of work for you to get on these lives every week. It's a lot of work to put out the content that we're doing, but we're doing it because it's having an impact. 9.6 million views, you know, 9 million views. Where else can you get the message out? Paulina, 2.4 million views. You know her. Her mold story got more exposure, what it did to her family, the autoimmune conditions, the diseases that it caused, Crohn's disease. Her husband, who was a medical doctor, had to quit working, right? That story is now out there. So people are waking up. Look, it's the mold in my home. So if you talk about another toxin that's going to, and you're an expert at this, that's going to ruin your life, and 50% or more homes have enough mold in them to make you sick, you have to watch your air quality. You have to make sure you're living in a house that's below 50% humidity. You got to get a dehumidifier. You got to crack, you know, a window so you're getting fresh air in, right? Getting that air exchange, and you got to get rid of the sources of mold in your home. Like, it's a big, big deal. And that is a big one, like huge. You living in a basement, it's the bottom of a hill, and there's water running. You're going to have to save up and either move if you're sick, or get a French drain and put it in there, and get you know, spend at least $1,000 on a dehumidifier. You're going to have to get your house fogged. But that's the investment. Our homes, you know, I'm doing a series on this with an award-winning filmmaker, Dr. Pedram Shojai, who's been on The Doctors, Dr. Oz, and we care so deeply about homes. We created a 6-part series going through each of these, from the electric that could be making you sick, dirty electricity in your home, or electric smog, or all the EMFs, right? But we do a couple pieces on mold, and it's super scary. So that's called Home Sick Home instead of Home Safe Home or Home Sweet Home, right? We called it Home Sick Home. That's going to be free in March, just to have more education. So homesickhome.com. So these topics are really big, but if you're talking about a major toxin that's going to wipe you out, biotoxins produced from mold is that thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I could speak to that one. Had my entire brain shut down, and like one of the scariest experiences of my life, and it just ruined my entire system, because a lot of people don't realize. So like, basically, if I were to say it really simply, what these toxins do in your body is they prevent your enzymes from working. And your enzymes are what carry out every single biological reaction in your body. So it's like, all of a sudden, if you had a giant workforce, they all just like lost a leg. And like, that's and they also make the receptors not work, which make your cells not work. And then, you know, for people in tough situations, starting to detoxify your life, even though it might seem difficult, will actually make your brain work better. And then all of a sudden you can start making better decisions for yourself in your life, and you function better, and you're not as emotional.
You can tell you've been sick. You can tell
you're not as emotional. You're not as reactive. So technically, like, when you're dealing with all these, you're kind of in a sick state. And as you were talking about, and what I went through, is like, when you really go through this stuff, you also go through like a weird identity crisis. So this work goes a lot deeper than we can talk about in just our time. But like, we want you guys to start to know these things. And I want to end with ways that we can help, because I know we just talked about a lot of scary stuff. So
a lot of problems.
like, you know,
focus on the solution. Eat my own words.
No, absolutely. I tell people, do nourishing things, avoid toxic things. That's like the simplest way that you can think of it. Think of what goes in your mouth. So that's your toothpaste. That is your food. That is your coffee. Like, a lot of coffee is tainted with mold. So that's why I use things like Bulletproof or Danger Coffee, which has all been lab tested for that. And understanding things like what goes on your skin. So not only clothing, but beauty products and lotion and shampoo. Like, I think there's a couple studies and a couple different statistics, but on average, the American woman puts about 150 chemicals on her face before she leaves the house. And I think men put about like 110. So just be aware of these things and use it as motivation to be like, oh, like, how can I find these brands? And Warren and I will put some links for you guys in the comments, because I've seen people asking for links. We'll put useful links for you. And he also has a ton in his link tree on his bio of just interesting information. So click his name, go to his link tree, and check all that out. But with these things, it's like even your cookware, right? Because that ends up going in your mouth. Or I saw you did a reel recently on like plastic wear in the kitchen, like cutting boards and realizing
Yeah.
that you're eating plastic, which is a total
Oh my
hormone disruptor.
gosh, I'm gonna drop a
Yeah,
bomb
go
on you.
for it.
So stainless steel, right? And I still use it. It, for a lot of people, it's not the best decision, right? So, and it can contain lead, unfortunately. So when you're buying stainless steel, and you got to use it and purchase it properly. So this is a big one. So this Black Friday, find a good Black Friday deal. And then what I talk about for frying pans, what I've come down to is, for the bulk of my frying is done in um, carbon steel, which is essentially a cast iron with a little bit of carbon, like 10% carbon, completely non-toxic, inert, and it becomes non-stick after you break it in, better than even a cast iron pan. So I've switched, that's a recent switch, right? Because nickel, I know you test people and you understand this. Where's the nickel allergy coming from? You're using stainless steel on stainless steel, and you're breaking off 1810 stainless, right, with an 1810 fork or ladle or mixer, right? It's all 1810 because that's what the best is. 18% chromium, 10% nickel, and you're getting nickel poisoning, which can cause all kinds of liver and kidney issues and all kinds of other stuff. And the only reason I know that it's real and it's not made up is that I've done a lot of heavy metal testing in the past on hundreds and hundreds, and when we were coaching doctors, hundreds and hundreds, we see elevated nickel. Also in hair samples, it's a little bit different there. But where was the nickel coming from? The source was the stainless steel. So getting 18.0 is so important for Black Friday for you. I'm actually dropping a video today, but I edited it because I want to do the funny parts more than the serious parts. So it might not drop today, but I'm sharing on that exact topic because I deep dive into it because I was like, wait a minute, and I had a friend that got nickel allergy, right? And I was like, oh my gosh. But then during my research over the last week, nickel allergies are increasing rapidly because we're getting exposed to it. Now our body is reacting and overreacting to nickel. What does that cause? Chronic inflammation. What is inflammation? The root cause of all disease. So, I mean, I don't think this is a major one, right? But it's a big one for some of you, especially if you have a nickel allergy, right? But Black Friday's coming around, get a carbon steel pan that you start cooking in, which is completely inert for the most part. And these stainless steel pans may have lead. They might be sneaking through the supply chain. So, and now a lot of them are carrying Prop 65 because they're getting sued.
Yep. And these heavy metals that we're talking about, it's when they get stuck in your system, your immune system is constantly trying to work on them, but it can't really excrete them. So all of a sudden your immune system's super upregulated, and then you have all these weird, crazy allergies and skin issues and gut issues. So and none of these things by themselves are the cause of all illness. It's
Right.
all of them accumulated together, and the research really isn't researching the combined effect of toxins, the toxic soup as it's called, that we're all living in. But this is why we're under so much duress, is these are all the invisible things that are putting the biggest burden on your body because we have limited control over them, which is why the stuff that you have control over, of what you put on your body and what you put in your mouth and how you take care of yourself, matters so much in preventing pretty much all diseases, because all of these are just irritants to whatever your fire is. All of these are just gasoline on your fire. That might be cardiovascular disease. It might be fibromyalgia. It might be autoimmune. It might be gut stuff. It might be brain stuff. But understand that these just are irritants to the system. So if we can just start removing them by changing what we use in our daily life, you get new cookware, you never think about it again. It's just one of those things that you trade out. Same thing with a water filter. Same thing with an air filter. You just plug it in and forget about it. And
same thing with a solid wood, board. It'll last a lifetime, $100. And you can pass it on to your kids, right? Yep. And get a nice solid hardwood cutting board for Black Friday as well. So these are a lot of great things. And then save a bunch of money by getting rid of all the chemicals in your house and using vinegar and water, maybe alcohol on your windows. You can even use vodka to clean your floors. Vodka. I mean, I have resources, and recipes. If you go to my website, nontoxicdad.com, my team and I put some resources together to make your own cleaning products and stuff like that, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Vinegar and water, you can clean your floors with lemon, vodka, and olive oil, right? My grandfather put olive oil on his skin, and he lived to be, I'm becoming an Italian citizen. He was Italian, so he put olive oil on his skin, and he lived to be 97. His grandfather, Pasquale, was 90, my grandma 99, my other grandma 94. the greats. So these people lived a non-toxic lifestyle, right? And they were smart, playing cards and poker and all the other fun games and walking up and down stairs until they passed away, right? So it's absolutely doable when you remove all that, all the stuff you wasted your money on, and just realize that simple is best. And you can buy simple products, but that's more expensive than just making it yourself. So just wipe all that stuff out. Your laundry detergent, you can make that, right? You can make all your cleaning products. You can use essential oils. Be careful. You don't even have to use too much,
Which ends
right?
up being cheaper half the time.
It's all less expensive for sure. And it can be done, guys. You know, that's why Dr. Christine's on this mission. That's why I'm here for you. That's why I created Non-Toxic Dad. So you didn't, one, you found answers more quickly than I did, because it took me years and years in debt and money and all those challenges, right? And, you know, so we get to do it now. We get to save your babies, you know, save your children, your grandchildren, like just living this non-toxic lifestyle. That's why we're doing it, right? It's for love, it's for the future, and we're making a difference. I see it happening because I'm in the middle of all this. You know, I just launched this channel, really start doing videos like 11 months ago, 12 months ago was my first video that really hit. And I can't believe the impact we can have. Like, and I also can't believe the number of people, because I was stuck in my little sick, you know, I was once sick box, and didn't realize what I took for granted is these solutions and how impactful they can be in your body. I wasn't sharing them because I thought everybody knew this stuff. And you get these comments on social media. Doesn't everybody know to get rid of plastic, you know, plastic cookware, plastic utensils, and plastic cutting boards? The answer is no, they don't. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I didn't know either, you know, but now you do.
That's right.
And just get rid of it.
That's why we're doing this, is so that you guys can know. So everyone asking for links in the website, nontoxicdad.com, or click on his name and go to the links in his bio, and he has a bunch of stuff. And this is the reason I wanted to have him on, is because he has lists and articles and suggestions and options that you guys can go check out. And I think that's just one of the best things. You just start learning. This is a process that you do over time, and you keep learning bit by bit. And the more that you learn, the more that you shift. And then, you know, in a couple of years, you're living a pretty non-toxic lifestyle. Yeah. And it can be even faster than that. So I just thank you so much for taking the time to do this today, because I think it's so important. And, you know, people were asking about like how to detox safely. Like I said earlier, that's the process, and it depends on the person, because depending on where their body's at, you can't always just start pushing someone's detox pathways or put them in an infrared sauna. You can actually make them sicker. So like, you have to do it in the right order, but the very first thing you do is you stop putting toxins in the system. Yeah. So this is step one, everything that we're talking about. So no matter where you're at, step one is stop toxifying the system. And, you know, I guess I would love to end with just, if there was something that you wanted everybody to know, what would you tell them?
What would I tell them? You know, that you're brilliant and you have value, you know, because I think that, I know for me in general, like I didn't even do Non-Toxic Dad, right? It never would have existed, because I didn't understand the value that I had inside of me to make an impact in this world. And whatever that is that you have is not, it might be linked to you being sick or not, or challenges, but when you understand that you are an amazing human, that you're meant to be here, that you're cared for, that you're loved, that you're forgiven, that you're blessed, right? Even inside the challenge, right? It sounds like I'm preaching, you know, a message, but I'm not, because this doesn't matter what you believe, if you're a Christian, a Muslim, Hindu, whatever, this principle of knowing and loving yourself and understanding that you have value and that you're brilliant and that you have something to offer and you're not forgotten, right? All those things will give you the spiritual energy to make some of these decisions. If you don't love yourself, if you don't think you have value because some broken person that was being who they were passed that on to you and that energy on to you, and if I could just inspire you to say, look, you're amazing, you're brilliant, that was a lie, right? And now you can tell yourself something new. And this is where affirmations and stuff would come in, because whatever you hear, you become. If you're in a toxic relationship or in a moldy home, the same thing happens. If you're being exposed by mycotoxins or exposed by bad words and words that are devaluing to you, it's just as toxic as the mycotoxins. So when you understand that, you start protecting yourself and protecting your energy channels and your, you know, and as well as the toxicity. So I think again, I'm saying that because that was me, right? It was the teacher that said that I was dumb. It was, you know, the kid that picked on me and said that I was mean, right? And then you wear this stuff, and I realize I'm a sensitive, kind human. And it took me 45 years to realize how sensitive and kind and loving I can be. Am I perfect? I'm far from it. I screw up daily, especially with my children, right? But when I start speaking that over myself, when I start being what I truly am and stop listening to the trauma that was inside of me, I'm becoming better and better each day. And it's massively detoxification of my body was first, but second is that even the spiritual detoxification I had to do was significant. So knowing that you're brilliant, knowing that you matter, knowing that you're cared for and loved is so important for your growth, especially when it comes to living a non-toxic lifestyle.
That was an amazing way to end. Thank you. So you guys, you can have such changes in your life if you detoxify your thinking and you detoxify your environment with just the simple daily choices of, you know, buying this brand or that one. You're buying it anyway. Just buy the one that's not poison. So thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and your links and everything that you've put together. And yeah, I just really appreciate you and the time that we got to spend at the conference where we met. And I look forward to future talks. And if you guys want to learn more about this stuff, he and I could talk about this for days. So just comment, comment below on the video when we post. Check out his reels, check out his stuff, and let us know what you want to learn. And we'll just do another one and we'll teach you, because that's like slowly changing the world through knowledge is what we're all about. Yeah. So thank you very much.
I knew this was going to be an amazing conversation. I actually look forward to it because I know that you work hard to think deeply about these things, and you know the science, and you're, it's really, I knew this was going to be fun, right? So, and easy and exciting and of value. So thank you for investing your time into me and into these lovely people that got to experience this today. Anything I can do, you just let me know.
Absolutely. Thank you. And for a fun thing to end with, one of the people just commented, my friend's nonverbal autistic kids started to speak now that we've been staying away from everything bad. So just food for thought as we sign off. Thanks, Warren.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that, guys. Bye-bye.